Hello, everyone. It's Stephen Whiteside here from the uptrend.com with your morning market outlook for Friday, March 27th, 2026. In the pre market this morning, stock index futures have been down across the board all morning. Now, we don't have any major economic numbers coming out this morning, so this is probably how the market's going to look at the open. Now, the Nasdaq futures are down $137.30. When we look at the average true range for the Nasdaq futures contract, it's up there at $551. So, that's a type of volatility that we need to see for a major move to happen. And so far, we are just coming down in an orderly fashion. There's no major breakdown just yet. Looking at commodities, they're trading higher across the board. That could help the Canadian market on Friday, but obviously those higher crude oil prices are not helping the U.S. market in the pre-market on Friday morning. Now, on Friday mornings, I like to print off some weekly charts just to stand back a bit and look at the big picture before we go into the weekend. Of course, when you're trading the market or watching it every day, you can get really tied up in the small movements in the market, and they may or may not change the overall tone of the market going forward. Starting off with the VIX is up a little over 2% for the week. And of course, we've got that major high from 2 weeks ago that could still act as a potential target to the upside. Now, when we blow this up and we see that the VIX bottomed in late December, since that time, it has been rising week over week over week. It has not closed below the previous week's low once. And you'll hear me say over and over again that the first thing I'm looking for in this particular case, we're looking for a sell signal to help boost the stock market. We would be looking for a close below the previous week's low. That does not guarantee a trend change, but that is the first thing I would look for as a setup to a possible trend change. So we have not done that once, and we'll take a look at the Nasdaq in a minute. But there's the S&P 500 down just under 0.5%. So far, it's an inside week, but with what we're doing in the pre-market this morning, we may start to break down below last week's low today. So there we are. We've been on a sell signal for a month, joining, of course, the Nasdaq, which has been on a sell signal for nearly 2 months now, down 1.3%. And yes, we have broken last week's low. Now, when we look at the Nasdaq 100, you can see where it peaked. And then since then, we have been moving slowly lower. Now, not once have we closed above the previous week's high. And again, that would be the first thing that I would look for as a possible setup for a trend change for, in this case, the NASDAQ. But it applies to every chart I'm looking for the first close above the previous bar's high or the first close below the previous bar's high, depending if you're looking for a new buy signal or a new sell signal. Looking at the Russell 2000, small cap, mid caps have all traded higher this week, but certainly no long term change in trend. Now, the semiconductors are down a little over 1%. The SOX index generated a sell signal a month ago, but we've had no fall through to the downside, and we certainly haven't closed below that low in the last month. Looking at the TSX, we're up on the week. It's an inside week for the TSX so far. Energy stocks continue to move higher. We made a new high for this move this week. We had the financials come back a bit and up 1.67%. Gold stocks have moved up a little over 4% on the week, having an inside week. Then looking at the price of gold itself, it's down nearly $200, but that doesn't seem to affect gold stocks at the moment. And then crude oil is down on the week ever so slightly, but it looks like that may change this morning. And you can see how wide that bar is. It's been a very volatile week in the energy sector. Now, bond prices continue to move lower. Bond yields continue to move higher. So that's putting upward pressure on interest rates. That's probably not good for the stock market. And then Bitcoin's having a quiet week, down a little under 2.5%. So no change in trend for Bitcoin. Now, after Wednesday's trading activity, I gave us some new daily buy signals. I said to either wave them off, sit on your hands, or take a partial position if you're really aggressive. And that was certainly the right thing to do yesterday with the VIX closing higher for the S&P 500, for the NASDAQ, and for the Russell 2000. And we're still trading within that range that we've been watching. So we really need a breakdown below 2188 to tell us that something new in the stock market is about to happen. Looking at the major index ETFs, starting off in Toronto, the iShares for the TSX 60, the Vanguard Canada ETF, stocks outside of Canada all came down yesterday. There's the small caps coming down. Energy stocks took a break yesterday after making, looks like it made a new high yesterday before a small pullback, so no change there. We saw the financials pull back yesterday. We saw bank stocks pull back. We've got gold stocks after hitting the upper channel line for the past 2 days. They had a pullback yesterday. They'll probably be up today. And then looking at tech stocks, no change in trend. We're still on a sell signal. Moving on to the U.S. market, starting off with the Vanguard Total Market ETF. So it hasn't broken the low from earlier in the week. It may do that on Fridays. That's also true for the Dow. The S&P 500 sitting right on the edge of the recent low, while the NASDAQ 100 broke the recent low yesterday, and that had a lot to do with a handful of big cap tech stocks. As you can see, the equal weighted NASDAQ did not make a new low yesterday, nor did the next generation NASDAQ. Now we had a small pullback in financials, in banks, in the regional banks, but the insurance sector moved up slightly on Thursday, having an inside day, so no change there. Broker dealers came down, no change there. Last up, the Magnificent 10 stocks were lower across the board yesterday. You can see the Magnificent 7 ETF certainly made a new low yesterday. We had a big reversal in AMD. It ran up to the next price target, came right back down to the 203.13 level, closing at 203.77. Then we had a new low yesterday for Alphabet, a new low for Meta, gapping lower yesterday, a new low for Microsoft, and a new low for this move for NVIDIA. And if you look back there, you can see the NVIDIA is desperately trying to hold on to the low from back here in early February, which was holding on to the low from December, which was holding on to the low from November. So we've got a band of support here that NVIDIA is trying to hold, and we'll have to see if we can hold it on Friday or if we start breaking through these previous lows. Okay, folks, that is all for this morning's presentation. It looks like we're going to have a lower open on Friday morning. Have a great Friday. Have a great weekend. Next time you'll hear my voice is, if you're a member, is on Sunday. Otherwise, we'll come back on Monday morning and look at how Friday turned out.
Thanks for tuning in until the very end of today's stock market timing educational video. If you found the content valuable, don't forget to express your support by hitting the like button, leave a comment, sharing with your friends, and subscribing to our channel for more insightful updates. Remember, in the world of stocks, timing is crucial, and following the trend can be your greatest ally. If you would like more information on how we can help you better time the stock market, please visit theuptrend.com.